Hello everybody, Thomas Fleming here again. Well, we need to be very grateful to God for what He has given us. The design of this universe is beyond all of our collective minds to think about and make happen. And yet God did it. He thought our universe that we know into existence. He said it and made it happen. Yet we can't even make a good cup of coffee sometimes. Let me get away from that sun. I keep doing this. I start walking, and next thing I know, I'm walking away from the sun. Let me get further into these trees. That might help. It's a nice day now that the rain is gone. I'm going to take me a little bit of a hike. You don't have to go the whole distance. But I do this all the time. I come out and I look at what God has created. Evolutionists, and we've unfortunately taken another good word called evolution and we've distorted it into one of Satan's bad things. There is evolution going on this planet. It's God-driven evolution. But we were not created by happenstance, by luck, and some primordial slop. We didn't grow up and walk up onto the land. Now, some of these things might have happened, but they're all driven by God. Now, I personally think that the earth is not 6 days old, or 6,000 years old. I personally think that the earth is the 13.8 billion years that science says it is. But I think that they may even be wrong on their estimations. Their estimations are based on the knowledge that we have today, and it may not be enough. But in any case, it's a long time. See, we don't even want to think about how long that would be. So we're more than happy to set it at 6,000 and just go along with that. Even though they can't rationalize how we have the things that we have down here based on that. Basically, if God created it in 6 days, He would have had to have created the earth with the dinosaurs, the bones, already petrified and in the rock. No, can't see that. I know we're curious, but that would give us the wrong image. God is an honest God. He doesn't give us wrong images. The ground is still wet and slippery in spots. I have to watch that. That was a low spot. I'm going up a hill now where it's dry. But if you look at the details of all the things that are living and you start studying things, you find that, like bees, they control the temperature of their hive. It's got to be a certain temperature. They've got babies in there. If it's getting cold, the bees go in and start eating some of the honey. As they burn off those calories, it produces heat and heats up the inside of the hive. If it gets too hot, then the bees go to the entrance of the hive and start flapping their wings and act as air conditioning. You think that happened by accident? No. It is far harder to imagine evolution than it is to imagine God just created it. Now maybe He, created a species that He didn't like anymore, like the dinosaurs, and then He got rid of them. He can create anything He wants. And he's probably, well, we know he's very old. We don't know how old. If he's infinitely old, then we can't possibly imagine how old that is. So we could put a time limit on it if we wanted to, but we don't know. In order to create this universe, you have to be bigger than the universe. You can't create something like this unless you're at least big enough to be able to reach the edges of it. So he's very big, and bigger than we can imagine. I'm over here walking on the river trail. I don't know if there's anybody out here. There's the river over there. There's a big tree that fell down right here. The rangers have to come out and cut paths back into the trail so we can keep walking. But there's more big trees out here that are gone. This is another big tree. See the hollow part of it there, and it goes up. It's completely dead, but it's a habitat now. As long as it can stay there and mind its own business, birds and everything else can live in it. I'm still walking with the sun at my back. There are certain times of the day that I should not get out and walk. But I get out when I get inspired, and I don't think about things like that. See, that's what I'm saying. We don't have the mind to think about all the things that you need to think about to be able to do something like God did. We got, trillions of synapses in our brain, and that's not enough to deal with the amount of processing that would take to create the universe that we live in. And he created this immense universe that we can look out billions of light years. And I personally believe we're it. There's nobody else out there. So he created this entire universe just to put us on this one little planet. The amount of effort that we would think about, it's, beyond our ability to even imagine what he would have created if he wanted to have two civilizations. He hasn't, and he won't, but I'm just saying, if this is what he creates just to have one, so when you get out and walk out in the woods like I'm doing now in wilderness, and look at all the things, take that as an opportunity to thank God for the creation that he created. I have no idea how he did it, but it's here. And it's such an easy thing to manage for him that when all this is over, he's going to destroy this entire universe and recreate another one. So be sure to thank him and talk to him. That's what he really wants. He wants us to have a relationship with him. He didn't create us to see if we could learn how to build a rocket ship and get off the planet. We were created for fellowship. He used to walk the garden with Adam and Eve and talk to them every day. And I am sure, since he created everything and he knows everything, he knew what Satan was up to. And he wanted to see what we would do. I'm sure it was a disappointment when Adam and Eve ate from the tree that we were told not to eat from. We've all done the same thing. Whatever he tells us not to do, Satan finds a trap to put us in that would make us do that. But he's given us a way back. He's given us a way to restore that relationship. And that's his son, Jesus. Jesus had to die exactly the way he did because it was predicted in the Bible. All the prophecies about him, he had to fulfill precisely. Not partially, precisely. That's where our early religious leaders really fell short. They should have known. All the verses that he quoted him, he taught many times. We don't know all the things he taught. We just have the record of the ones that were written down. He's educating the educators because they didn't know. And he knew what his job was, but he knew what he was getting in for. That's why he asked God if he could take it from him. But it wouldn't have worked. He knew the answer to that. But he asked that question so that people could see his reasoning. Unlike our government, God does things in an open book nature. You're included in all the discussions, essentially. The Bible gives us an accounting of all these discussions. We know that God and Jesus lamented over what they had to do, but they did it anyway. Could they have found something else, another way to do it? Possibly. But would it have had the impact? Probably not. Anything's possible for God, so he could have come up with something else. This was designed, this whole thing of Christianity was designed by God for us, to give us a way out, to give us a way back to the garden. We don't know what the new city of Jerusalem is going to look like. They didn't have a Jerusalem per se necessarily, at least called that, in the Garden of Eden. But a lot of what we may see may be what they had back then. The plants, you can hear these trees blowing around, making noise. Like I said, a lot of the trees are damaged or dead. The pine trees are the worst ones because they're being killed by a parasite. Pine beetle. These hardwoods are just old, and they have to deal with anything. There's been some fires through here. I can see scorch marks on some of the trees. Some of them are dead and are being eaten. You can tell when the bark starts coming off. And they're leaning. I don't know if you can see any of these trees back in there that are tilted at angles. But he created a system here on earth that for the most part is self-sustaining. Everything down here is basically a continuation of what God originally created. Every living thing on this planet creates a seed. The seed goes in the ground and dies, and comes back up as a new plant. And then the new plant grows up, produces a seed, and it keeps growing. If you get enough of them, you get a forest. This isn't any better. I thought it would be better if I turned around and walked back into the sun, but I keep going behind trees. I need to be in an area that stays fairly uniform. Again, I know how to do all this professionally, but It's just me. And I don't want to trap around here with 500 pounds of gear. Okay, this looks a little better in here. I think I'm just going to kind of hover in here. There's a little creek that goes by and a bridge they built over it. Get out in nature. Do what I'm doing. You don't have to live out here. I enjoy it, so it's okay for me, but what I do is not right for everybody. And what you do may not be right for anybody else. We're unique. All the billions and billions of people on this planet, and God can keep track of every one of them. And every one of us is uniquely designed by God in such a way He knows what we're going to do and what we're not going to do, what choices we're going to make. It's a form of predestination. But we have a chance to control the path. We know where we're going, or He does. The path we get there is up to us. You don't have to do anything God wants you to do. He won't force you. Now, you'd be a fool not to do what He wants you to do, because what He wants you to do is exactly what you were designed to do. And He knows best. The sooner we accept that, the better off we are. I'm not doing a Bible study. I'm just giving you what I've observed in my life. He will never force you to do anything. And He doesn't have the wrath that people keep attributing to God. The things that are happening bad to people are a combination of the devil and their own inability to see what's going on. Most people, as I look around here, can't see the forest for the trees. They have no idea. We can't comprehend just this little bit of a state park. Yet God can comprehend the whole universe. And we're arrogant enough that we think we can tell Him how to run things. And we're not even in the executive meeting where they're discussing this stuff. It's all going to come to an end shortly. I can't give you a date. Everybody tries. I'm just looking at the things going on in the world, and that's how Jesus wants us to do it. He didn't tell us, on this date or so many days away or on this holiday or on this event. He didn't tell us any of that. He described what the world would look like. And we're seeing it now. The wind's blowing pretty good. We're lucky our storm broke apart. It's going to be 70 degrees or thereabouts today. If the storm that hit us a week or so ago was the same as this one, it'd have been even worse. But it fell apart, like I said in my last video. God can do that. He can control the weather. Jesus demonstrated that many times. Big storm at sea, walks on the water, gets on the boat, and the storm goes away. Can you do that? I can't. Personally, I can't. God could do it through any of us if we're supposed to. God's going to allow the lie to continue to propagate itself. We're not going to really have too many special features. Satan and his group will, and that's going to make people believe the lie. We're just kind of going to be there and observe. They're not allowed to touch us and harm us. We can harm ourselves. But Satan is not allowed to come out and just harm us just because he can. And he can. God won't let him. Now, if God says, don't stand underneath that tree, and you say, God, I don't like you telling me what to do, I'm going to stand here. Okay, have fun. When the lightning hits that tree, you can think about it a little bit more. He's not telling us to do things or not to do things because he likes being a dictator. He's telling us all things for our good. You ever been in a situation where you've done that? You try to tell somebody it's not a good thing to do whatever they're doing, and they get mad at you because of what they're doing. Well, we do the same thing to God all the time. That's why whenever you talk to God, thank him for what he's created. Thank him for creating you and taking care of you. And apologize for our behavior. Like Jesus said, forgive them for they don't know what they're doing. And we don't. We arrogantly think we do. I listen to some of these physicists talk. And I'm surprised that there are physicists out there that are atheists. Astrophysicists, whatever you want. How can you look at all this creation? How can you see everything that's around us and not believe in a God? The randomness of all this stuff, but yet it has a pattern to it. But we can't see it because it's too complex. For the most part, it's the sound of nature. I can hear a little bit of man-made nature out there, but not very much. I can see some jet trails up high in the sky. Well, only one today. Some high clouds off in the distance. There are things happening in this world right now that are appalling. From that point of view, I can't wait until we get to the end. I'm not terribly worried about myself getting out of here. I'm still functioning. I've got a weak knee I gotta watch. Some foods I can't eat very well anymore. Foods that I like. But I can deal with my limited problems here. There are people out there that are suffering, and my heart goes out to them. And a lot of times, I don't seem to have the power of prayer like they did back then in Jesus' time. I pray for stuff, and I'm sure that my prayer collectively, along with other people, might actually do something to fix somebody who's got a problem. But a lot of times it doesn't. I don't know why. I feel weak sometimes that I can't just pray for something to get better and have it get better. And I do pray. But you see back in the old times when we're reading the New Testament, they could pray for somebody to get well, to walk, to be raised from the dead, and they would immediately. Now, a lot of it was to show the power of God to the people that had never really seen it. It was to help establish the church. I understand that. But I wish we all had more power. What I wish is that Christians didn't really have problems. As a Christian, we know God. Why do we have problems? You know, because we're not perfect by any means. But still, I think it would help. These are questions that I ask myself and I ask God, and I keep getting back the standard answer, my grace is sufficient. And I really don't have any major problems, at least none that I'm aware of. Ignorance is bliss. But it does bother me that I can't, using Jesus' power, just immediately heal people. And I see people every day that have something. I have a new camper next to me. He's a veteran, ex-Marine, and he has to go to dialysis 5 days a week. I dealt with that with my father-in-law, so I know that that's not comfortable. It's like, why? You could ask back then, why was this man born blind? And Jesus would say, well, not because of his parents or anything else, it's so that the glory of God can be revealed. Why can't we reveal God now? Because the world doesn't want God. Not the God that we know. They want the God that imitates the one we know, that thinks he's better. They want the devil. And he's given the world what they want. Many times God will give us what we want, even if it's bad for us, because we want it and he wants to please us. This is one time I wish we didn't have to have a God that likes to please us. Lock Satan up and let's stop this stuff. I have another armadillo here. They're all over the place. It's not the same one. Let's see how close I can get again. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this here, and I'm going to switch to my armadillo cam. Till we meet in the clouds, God bless. Let's take a look at nature again and figure out, was this an accident? Armadillo cam. You see, I know this one's a different one because his back isn't scarred like the other one. Looking for tasty grubs, any kind of bugs that live down there. Nature has all these checks and balances. Without the armadillos eating the bugs down there might overwhelm the ground and we might get attacked by the bugs. And if we get too many of these, we'll get some coyotes come in and eat them. And deer. The deer in here, there's really no predators to eat them. So our management people actually set up a hunting season It was the end of last 2 days of November to come in here to try to thin them out a little bit. If you don't, they'll just keep breeding and then run out of food and starve to death. We try to play God. In many areas we can do a little bit of it. One example where we couldn't play God, I don't know the full details on it, but I know that my sister used to live in Hawaii. So I'd hear some of these stories. It's like the ships would come in and they'd have these rats on them, sometimes big rats. So they brought in something to eat the rats. Was it a mongoose or something? I don't know. But then there was nothing to eat the mongoose. So they tried to bring in something to eat that. And then there was nothing to eat whatever that predator was. You try juggling all these biodiversity creatures to keep it all in balance. Can't. God can, though. And He does it with very little effort. Again, thank Him. There's my tent.